Hello, everyone. This is the Wednesday, June 12th, 2024 Jupyter Frontends weekly meeting. Welcome to any new participants here. It looks like we have a couple of items on the agenda. I have the first one, so I'll go ahead. I have links to this in the agenda notes, but for the What is Jupyter document that I'm writing. So again, to remind everyone, this explains fundamental ideas and components inside the Jupyter ecosystem. So for this PR, I have a mermaid diagram on here that Carlos made, and currently it's not rendering in the HTML output. So I was wondering if anybody had any tips there. Anyone who's already familiar with that, who could save me some work. So that's one point, and another point is that we're planning to post this as a blog post imminently. So yeah, that should be coming up sometime soon here. So if anyone has suggestions for how to fix that, or you can take a quick look at what we have there if you want. But that's all I have. Does anyone have any feedback here? Rob, I think you're muted if you're talking.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, I don't have any feedback.
Okay. I looked through some of we have a we have a bunch of example notebooks. I think it's on the Jupyter, I think it's on the Jupyter/Jupyter repository wiki, I think. But a bunch of those example links are broken. I went through and tried to find a suitable example screenshot. I know we use the Lorenz attractor screenshot a lot, but I went ahead and made a new one based on the insulin protein structure. It's the structure of the insulin receptor. So hopefully that might be a little bit more accessible in a general sense, because people might know what that is, I think, more than they would a Lorenz attractor. So that's in there too. And I think in general, if anybody needs to demo Jupyter interactive capabilities, the PDB viewer, it's called NGL View, is a pretty useful library. So everyone take a look at that if you're interested. That's all I have, though. Jeremy, looks like you're next.
Yeah. I have mostly one item to discuss. It's not directly related to JupyterLab. It's more about Jupyter AI. So I started to look a little bit more into how we could have some kind of Jupyter AI story in Jupyter Lite, which means doing everything in the front end. And so currently, it's not possible to reuse Jupyter AI as is because it uses a server extension and it's really like based on the long chain Python package on the backend. So I prototyped two extensions that directly talk to some online providers, and that was just to try to see if we can have something working, with little effort. In that case, it's with a provider called Codium. They do something like the VS Code Copilot. So they have like the inline code completion API, but also have a chat. For now, I only did the inline code completion. For that extension, it works in Jupyter Lite. So it just makes requests to that provider. And I also did something with this Mistral AI, which is this new French startup doing something similar. And this one is also using the new Jupyter Chat package that is now under the JupyterLab org. And it's also working in Jupyter Lite. But I don't think we can continue this way and make one extension per provider. And I was wondering how we could proceed with trying to reuse the work in Jupyter AI in a way so that it could be used on the front end only, like applications such as JupyterLab. Um, it was requested several times. I think also on the JupyterLab repo, there were two issues in the Jupyter AI repo. So I closed one, so we have only one discussion thread. I posted it in the notes, so I also posted some thoughts about this. I looked briefly into LangChain. Apparently, they have a JavaScript version of it. So I don't know if there is something to be done there. At first, it sounds like everything that is done currently with the LangChain Python package could be done in the browser directly, but I'm not sure. So let me see if there's any Jupyter AI contributor here who might have some pointers. I see Mike maybe knows a bit about this. Otherwise, I would just ping a few folks who have been more active on the repo. So yeah, I'm just mentioning that now in case some people have IDs, pointers, or anything. Yeah, or who, if you want to try also these two extensions, they are also already deployed on GitHub pages. And you just need to provide an API token to try them, but to get an idea of the the user experience and things like this in JupyterLab. That's it for me.
So one thing to consider early on is how the secrets and tokens are to be handled, and having the backend on the backend is very nice because Jupyter AI doesn't expose the API tokens to the frontend ever. It just pulls them and stores them on the server side. And when I was looking at the inline completer implementation, I initially seen that OpenAI had an NPM package which could technically run in the browser, but it had red letters all over it saying, do not use that in the browser because an extension that you use or some other website might steal the token and it will incur large costs on your account. So LangChain.js sounds great, especially if it really supports as much as Python. But there is like a larger story of how do we handle secrets.
Yeah, it seems like it always comes down to this. Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I guess like you could always store it in memory. Like, I mean, it's not optimal, but there could be at least one use case where a user would just provide it. So for now, it's in the settings, which is not great for sure, because in JupyterLite it's stored in IndexedDB. But it's, I wonder how the other AI apps or like these things that all of these chat apps that are out there do it, whether they all have a backend somewhere or if some of them are pure frontend.
I mean, there's no security possible. It doesn't matter in JupyterLite. It can't. If you have everything on the same domain, it can't be secure. So the only time that I actually tried to do this was with a second domain with an iframe with a post message. So then at least it's over there. But then that's still, anybody that knows where that domain is can get it. So if you have another extension, I mean, I don't really think that there is a way to do it, to do secure, ignoring AI or whatever, but just like secrets in general. I don't think there's a way that JupyterLite as a single site deployment can architect around that. There's no security boundary that we can actually trust. So I wouldn't worry about it that much. I mean, so what's your deployment case, right? Like you want to put something out there and it does something without the secret, but then if you put the secret in, then it does something more. Is that the basic?
Yeah, I think so.
So,
And yeah,
yeah.
It wouldn't apply to only these AI things. It could be like, connecting to remote storage also, right? That requires an API key.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to know, like you're giving it to every author of every JupyterLab author and every transient dependency of all 1,000 dependencies that we ship in there. You're giving them access to your token. So if any of those have been backdoored, it's game over, and there's nothing you can do on a single site deployment. And even on a multi-site deployment, like there's really no, oh, I guess you could have 3. No, it's it's a go to hell problem, right? Like there's no winning. There's no winning if there's no trust.
So here is a scenario. There's Jupyter.org website, and someone goes in on a shared computer, enters the secret, and then it's stored in the browser. Can we do better? Can we force that some settings have an explicit disclaimer to choose whether to save them into settings and persist via local storage, or only store them for the duration of the session? And then the setting window should be a proper password input field, so that if someone has one password or another extension, they can quickly input the token if they decide so. I'm thinking about this level of solution rather than reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, I would not even cast it in the same light as settings. It would not appear in that box. It would be a sidebar for an extension, and it would just be like JupyterLite secrets or something like that, and like, or JupyterLite not actually secrets. Yeah, but then it would never hit IndexedDB. It would not persist. Like that's fairly straightforward.
Yeah, if it's just for the current session, then it could just be a dialog or a sidebar for sure. There is no need to. I mean, the reason it's in the settings right now is just because it was easier to put some value somewhere and get it easily. But it could be just a prompt.
Yeah. I mean, and then and this is just extension crafting generally, right? Like, so you could have a URL. The way that I would see this work sometimes is if you were inside a private repository on a private GitHub pages or private GitLab pages, you will have access, if you ask for it, to that token. And that has been requested a number of times, being able to, actually use JupyterLab Git with fetching stuff from GitLab, not Git itself, because we still don't have a nice morphic Git thing. So you could redirect to the thing, and then it would eat that and put it in the temporary session storage or whatever. Like there's ways you could make this not awful, but at the end of the day, it will not be secure if you are running untrusted code against it. So, and then you want to get it into kernels, right? And then not have it ever be able to come back out of a notebook, which is, again, almost impossible. So, I guess we could, if we had save hooks or something like that, you could probably save it. And since the session manager or the service manager would know about those secrets, it could scrub those. But that's, again, a losing battle to try and make that safe. Yeah, it's just it's very hard. In that specific case, I would probably move it up into, I would do it as a widget first, frankly, right? Because then you've got that boundary, and it can be a little bit tighter, so you're not trying to pretend to be an HTTP server. You can just put it inside of a closure inside of the widget view, and so it does nothing. And that would also get you around, Like you could just reuse the server component, right? Just run it in Python and just say like, yeah, this only works in a notebook. It's not going to do, you got to have that open.
Wait, what do you want to put in a widget? You said?
Well, okay. So instead of a sidebar, or it could still be a sidebar, you say, all right, if you want to do some secret stuff. Okay. So open up this notebook. You open up the notebook and you run that notebook, and then you get a widget box, and that could be an JupyterLab, sidebar widget, whatever. You put the secret into there, and then you make all the requests from inside that widget in the client, in the widget space, not in the kernel space. Like it's happening out in the client, but so it thinks for that kernel, it thinks that it's getting the thing, right? But it's not. That's at least happening inside the web worker. It doesn't change the security posture, but it would let you potentially reuse more things. That's the one difference.
So in the case, so there are two problems, right? So the first one is security in general when it comes to managing tokens in JupyterLite, and that is for Jupyter, like AI things or accessing remote storage or anything that needs a API key. And then there is the possibility of reusing Jupyter AI in JupyterLite. And I guess those two could be kind of separate, right? If we kind of ignore the security, or is the security really a showstopper for even thinking about looking into this? I don't remember exactly the reason, how the whole Jupyter AI project started and the discussions, but maybe it's documented somewhere. But...
Well, I mean, this is precisely the reason why we didn't. So back in the day on Jupyter LSP, some third-party SaaS or whatever wanted to put their thing into Jupyter LSP, and we're like, I mean, we can't do that. Like once there's integration with a third-party service, then that open source package no longer has any control of that, and we give a pass to GitHub because they give us value. Like all day they give us value, but I don't have a good answer for that. People certainly have deployed JupyterLite sites that use secrets, but they need to take on 100% of the responsibility for it. No guarantee of merchantability, all that stuff, and understand the threat model that they're actually looking at. Like if you're just pulling some reports off of your in-house data center or whatever, right? Like that can't hurt anything too bad. If you're getting a full GitLab token that can do anything as you, that's a big problem. Like that's so. However it's couched, it would need to be strongly worded, and I don't think we need to write special cases for settings, to handle that.
Yeah, I was looking at the JupyterLab GitHub extension, and there is a way to provide an access token field setting there. It clearly says, like, for security reasons, access tokens should be set in the server extension. So it's possible, right? But at least there is a disclaimer. I don't know if there is something, if we could do better indeed than this.
All right, I think we can go over to Mike now. He's got the next agenda item.
Oh, I will just talk about Jupyter AI again. So let's yeah, sorry, I was still processing how we could help unblock Jeremy on getting Jupyter AI to work in the browser, and what are the next steps here. And my understanding is that LangChain.js is a thing, but LangChain on the server is also a thing which is necessary if a user wants to run a model on their machine. And I know that WebGPU is a thing, but I wasn't able to make it work. So all the models that run in my browsers are very small, like tiny models. And that's maybe just a problem with my Linux setup or something, but
Just to clarify the use case, I think here, if we don't cover that in JupyterLab, I think it's still fine. I guess the idea would be to have just a partial functionality, and then if that means just accessing online providers, then it's still something that is useful. And then, yeah, for sure, the local models or the ones running in a browser, even though it's possible, they might not be as good today, right?
yes, so my thinking is if we were in the future proposed to rewrite the Jupyter AI architecture, then this LangChain frontend side would need to make API calls to our frontend, to our backend server extension, so that the local models on the machine where the server is installed could still be used. Like a part of the how do we handle tokens, this is the only limitations. If we were to go all in and swap up LangChain Python to LangChain JS, there's of course the other possibility of having different swappable plugins so that one implementation will be using LangChain Python and the other for JupyterLite would be using LangChain JS. Okay, I think we can move on and continue the discussion on the issue and make sure that all the Jupyter AI maintainers are aware of the thoughts that the ideas that we discussed. My other point is about making like a request to have another Jupyter AI release or pre-release, and I don't see David on the call. Yeah, if anyone from the team who works with him could pass on the message that I would be really happy to see some of the pull requests that were recently merged pre-released. I would appreciate that. And I can make the release. I'm just trying to coordinate.
Would it be okay to open an issue to ask for the release? I guess it would be fine, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying I'd love a pre-release, but I also saw that there are at least 2 pull requests which seem close to merging. I don't want to make too big of a deal out of that. Like if the support for notebook or the export command lands first and I wait 1 day, that's probably fine. It's just like
I would like to
level of mention on a call, but don't go and bother people.
I would like to get this Notebook 7 PR also merged so that we can have it out there.
Okay, I see from the chat that a release this week. Well, that would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm meeting David later this morning, so I'll again bring it up with him. But I think he did mention he was trying to do a release later this week, so it should happen.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That would be perfect.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Okay. So my other point is that I undrafted the pull request for Minimap. I paste it in the chat again. And this is just to invite more reviews. The div still shows the other pull request on which it depends, which should be merged first, and then I will merge / rebase, and the div will be smaller. But I do invite everyone to give opinions, and as we discussed previously, it might be already good enough to merge this and ship a pre-release so that everyone can test that with their own notebooks and provide feedback, and then we'll iterate before we release it. That's it from me, unless anyone has questions on the minimap.
All right, do we have any more feedback there? Okay, does anybody have anything else they want to say? Anyone want to share anything or discuss anything before we end the recording? All right, brace yourselves.